special report that's coming up, so stay with us.
The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new InfoWarsLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients. Extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules, you will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. The month of February is all about Valentine's Day. Big heart-shaped boxes filled with delicious candy. What if we, the Patriots, hijacked Valentine's Day and instead made it about human liberty and individual empowerment? I'm all about human potential. I'm all about the individual being empowered. The establishment is the opposite. That's why they spike our water with fluoride and GMO estrogen mimickers and the rest of the garbage. InfoWars is striking back in the month of February with Human Empowerment Month. How we can come together and win the human race. And to celebrate the kickoff of Human Empowerment Month, we're slashing prices on InfoWarsLife.com products like Super Male and Super Female Vitality. The sale is only running for the month, 20% off, and there's a lot of other powerful specials at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWarsLife.com, celebrating human potential in the month of February. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to find this special and many others in the month of February. Again, InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. In the near future.
When you realize how fake it all is, the football, the basketball.
Alert. Security alert. This is Homeland Security. Analysis. InfoWars building independent media operations.
Let the worst people get control and tell us that we are the ones responsible.
Prime directive. Discredit Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
A popular conspiracy theory talk show called InfoWars.
Alex Jones is now in an Austin jail.
These people are assaulting us.
Targeting of Patriots engaged.
They are never going to stop. They're never going to deviate from their program until we stop them.
Block free iPhone app at Infowars.com. Block free podcast and video feed. Imperative. Destroy Prison Planet TV.
You gotta set your eye on the enemy, not worry about what propaganda they put out. Intellectually, it's begun. You can feel it.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation, it's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I'll finish up this hour. We're going to be talking to callers on the line who've been calling in about this issue that came up in Missouri now about making arrests and having ticket quotas. This is something we've seen a lot of. This is something that was exposed by Adrian Schoolcraft in the New York Police Department. A huge, huge whistleblower case there. He later went on to talk about what the NYPD was doing in terms of their stop and frisk, their program of just pulling people over and frisking them because they feel like it without any probable cause whatsoever. Adrian Schoolcraft was recording for years what was going on in his police department. This was an honest cop. His dad had been a cop. He was very idealistic. He was very concerned about this quota system that was going on. He was concerned about different issues. I remember listening to the audio tapes. They were telling them on a Halloween, just go out and grab 3 people. Don't even, just bring them back, put them in the pen, don't fill out any paperwork. We'll figure out what we're going to charge them with later, but just get 3 people, then go back out and get another 3 people, and then at the end of the night, we'll run charges on. We just got to get our arrest numbers up. He was concerned about the fact that they were harassing people endlessly for things that they could, petty crimes that they could make a lot of revenue off of. Things like they killed Eric Garner for. And yet for serious crimes, they didn't want to look bad in the FBI statistics, so they would actually pressure people to not report serious crimes like rape, like car theft. If you reported a car theft, they would come there and say, you know, this is going to be so much paperwork. It's going to take so much of your time. You really don't want to do this, do you? I mean, don't you kind of remember that you loaned this to your cousin and he hasn't brought it back yet? Isn't that what happened? Don't you kind of remember that? Giving them an idea, and yeah, that's it. So then they would write that down, and then they wouldn't have any FBI statistics on serious crime. Nevertheless, when it came to petty rule violations about people smoking in a barbershop, or the barbers, because they couldn't smoke in their own barbershop, going in front of the barbershop and standing there getting charged with loitering, for that, they were all over them. And we just saw this last holiday season that the NYPD, being angry with the mayor there, de Blasio, said, we're going to do a work stoppage. We're going to cut your revenue by $10 million a week by not writing tickets for petty stuff. They said, we're not going to write tickets or arrest people unless it's absolutely necessary. What a novel idea. Not arresting people or writing tickets to them unless it's absolutely necessary. They cut it by 95%. And guess what? Serious crime fell as well. They didn't have a single arrest on New Year's Eve. But unfortunately, that's changed now. They went back about the middle of January. They went back to business as usual. A lot of pressure from the police captains and the brass who was working for City Hall. And we need to step back and ask ourselves what the real purpose of the police is. What is the real purpose of our government? Is it there to protect our rights? That's what the Declaration of Independence says. Does a just government govern only when it has the consent of the governed? Are we consenting to this, or are they doing things that we really don't want them to do? How do we get this back? I want to go right back to Robert in Missouri, but real quickly, before I do, I want to let you know that this hour of the Alex Jones Show is brought to you by the products that we sell at InfoWarsLife.com. That's our primary source of revenue. It's the way you can support this broadcast, as well as supporting the advertisers on the various radio affiliates that we have. Right now, we have a special, InfoWarsLife.com. If you buy 2 X2 nascent iodine, you get 1 Ancient Defense for free. That's our new product of herbs, Ancient Defense. You get one of those for free once you get 2 of the Nascent Iodine X2. Let's go back to Robert in Missouri. Robert, go ahead and continue with what you were talking about.
Yeah, well, you know, this metamorphosis to where these entities that call themselves municipalities have become just strictly on the corporate model, where basically now the police are just corporate revenue generators versus protecting the people within those entities themselves. And, you know, I work behind bars. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. And, you know, where I work, I'm not going to say where, but there's a whole unit full of pedophiles. And then there's units full of people that do first-degree robberies, armed robberies. There's burglars. There's drug addicts that got to go steal to get their high. And then we could get into the drug war, and we could talk about that all day. Why the price for these drugs is so high that makes these addicts go out and steal to get their high. Yes. And then we've got these large federal agencies that import the heroin straight from Afghanistan and bring it here. And here in the Midwest, I'm smack dab in the middle of this country, and heroin is an absolute epidemic. Cocaine has almost disappeared. Heroin is everywhere. All these 20-something-year-old kids that I see, almost all of them are heroin junkies. And this has created this problem to where the jails are getting full of these people because they're committing crimes such as thieves, stealing, burglary, and so forth to keep that high. Because when you can't get high off heroin, folks, these people go through hell. I watch people defecate on themselves, vomit everywhere when they're coming off of this stuff. And it is an absolute poison. It changes them forever. And it's almost like these people become a lost cause. They'll be sober for 6 months while they're locked up in these places. And the first thing they do is run out and get a shot of heroin. And sometimes it kills them because that's just the way it is. And so this revenue generation thing that happened right down the road from where I live, this is just symptomatic of the implosion of our economy, because the free trade's really the thing. I mean, they sent all the manufacturing jobs elsewhere for that cheap labor, and then they import the stuff, and then they still sell it for the same price. While all these kids, there's no jobs out here. We're going through a total economic implosion, and it's just it's a horrible situation to watch. The utter corruption.
Robert, you talked about how so much of the heroin you're getting flooded with, you're not seeing cocaine so much anymore. And, of course, heroin opium products coming out of Afghanistan were down to only 10% of the world's supply before the U.S. military went there as part of our intervention in Afghanistan. Then they went up to over 90% of the world's supply. We've got video of Geraldo Rivera talking to the troops and saying, you're guarding the fields here for these people to raise poppies. Every year, they're having a bumper crop. So if you want to know the source of the heroin epidemic, it's coming from the American government. That is, they're facilitating it, not just importing it, but facilitating it, in the same way that they facilitated the previous epidemic of cocaine and crack cocaine. As Gary Webb pointed out in Dark Alliance, they were using that to fund their dark operations and bringing in and creating the crack cocaine epidemic that swept through the country. So they worked both sides of prohibition. They used prohibition to destroy the rule of law. They use it to set up unconstitutional civil asset forfeiture, and they also profit from it by being the suppliers to it. And then they have the private prisons who make the money out of all the people that they put in prison. And, of course, we've incarcerated more people per capita than any other country in the world, in history. Far more than communist China, far more than Russia. Robert, did you want to add anything before we go to the other callers on here?
Real quickly, there's tons of people that consider themselves sovereigns that are locked up right now, and the courts will not even entertain their arguments. They will laugh them out of court, and they say, yeah, go do some more time, buddy. So the courts themselves are lawless. They will not even entertain arguments. It depends on the municipality and a county, or whether it's in federal court. So sometimes this sovereign thing, yeah, it's right on paper, but guess what? The judges are criminals, and so therefore they laugh these people right out of court. And one more thing with illegal immigration, pedophilia. If you look at these units where we hold pedophiles, there's an alarming number of these people are illegal immigrants. So they're bringing this culture with them where they rape little kids, like in Mexico and so forth. And now they're filling up our pedophile units behind bars. I figured I'd throw that one at you, too.
Well, you know, it's amazing when you're talking about how the judges will just throw stuff out. We see that all the time. I mean, a good example of that is the fundamental perversion of the idea of the purpose of a jury. And, of course, we could, if we understood and stood up for our rights, if we understood what a jury is for, if we understood that it's not there just to rubber stamp what the judge in the court is telling you, it's not there just to judge the facts of the case, it's there to judge whether the law is something that you want in your community, whether it's being applied fairly, whether the punishment is something that you want to extend to people. So, clearly, if I looked at this as a juror, I would not send somebody to jail if there was a mandatory minimum involved without any discretion on it. I would shut that down. They were shutting down alcohol prohibition by jury before they changed it again with the Constitution. And, of course, that brings up the point I always bring out. Why is it that we had to have a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol, and we didn't need a constitutional amendment to prohibit anything else? Nothing else. Not medical marijuana, nothing else. The government just says it's prohibited. We've got two constitutional amendments, one to prohibit alcohol, one to make it constitutional again. Why is it that we don't have to have that for anything else? Well, clearly the answer is that no one in the government at any level could care less about what the Constitution says. It's a dead letter, and as you're talking about, the corruption is so extensive that it is pervasive throughout the court systems. The lying to the jurors by judges and their instructions about what the purpose of the jury is just one example. Punishing anybody who is a lawyer who brings up jury nullification. That's another example. And, of course, most people who are successful at jury nullification are doing it pro se. They're representing themselves, like the New Jersey Weed Man, one of the first stories I covered when I came here to InfoWars. But I think it's to the point where we're not going to see somebody, we're not going to be able to send a Mr. Smith to Washington and get everything fixed. There isn't going to be any senator, there isn't going to be any president that's going to fix this. We have a massive, metastasizing, feral government. It's wild. It doesn't respond to anything. The chains of the Constitution have come off. The only way, if it's not too late, to shut this down is at the state level, if we can find some honest people there. Let's go to some other former law enforcement officers. Doug in Maryland. Doug?
Hello, Mr. Knight. How you doing today? I
Doing good.
wanted to thank you for having me on, and I'll pray for Alex as he's going to see his family there.
Thank you.
I wanted to give you a little bit of insight. I can't stay on too long because I'm driving to work, but I wanted to give you a little insight on how quotas work. I'm former NYPD.
So then you know about the Adrian Schoolcraft situation.
Yeah,
sure.
I do,
Yes.
actually, yeah. There's two different agencies that actually produce revenue for that. Okay,